Hello and welcome, Al Kingsley, to the EdTech podcast, the first episode that we are doing where we are focusing directly on EdTech and how it is supporting schools and educators globally. So it's a real pleasure to have you talking about Classroom Cloud today. We'd love to hear a little bit about what Classroom Cloud does, what it was meant to do, and what your hopes are for it.
Well, it is lovely to be here on the first episode. And of course, I'm a huge fan of all the work you're doing, which means I'm very, very grateful and pleased to put our evidence-informed and developed platform on the review panel for the first episode. So Classroom Cloud, if I was going to do an elevator pitch to you, I'd say it's a product of three things. It's a product that provides the right tools for classroom instruction and management, a second wrapper to keep children safe online with the use of technology, and the third is to provide a toolkit for IT managers to make sure the devices are always available. I have spent years as an advocate when it comes to educational technology, but the most important bit is the why. Why are we delivering a tool? Not what we got, isn't it cool, and you should use it for some purpose. And so if I roll all the way back to the very early 90s, for those listening in, obviously I was but a mere child when we were thinking of this. The very first education tool we released was a classroom management tool on DOS and Windows for Workgroups computers. In essence, teachers said, now I've got a room of devices. Wouldn't it be really, really helpful if I could see what the children are doing on their screens? I could do a little bit of eyes to the front of the class to capture attention and make sure that I can shepherd and nurture them on their digital journey. Over the years, people have wanted lots more. Can I test them? Can I quiz them? Can I see what applications they're using? Can I save that few seconds at the beginning of the lesson where I can automatically launch the right website or the right app on all their desktops, and just as importantly, close it? Can I stop them using memory sticks when they're in the middle of a test? Or can I make sure or spot if they're any left behind? Is there a way a child can say, I need help without having to put their hand up in front of their peers? So quietly request help. All those kind of things are built into the fabric of a flexible classroom management product. But at the same time, sadly, having developed a wonderful, fantastic desktop product, the word classroom changed somewhat in recent years to mean something more than just the physical locale. It might be the locale, but it might be children working remotely from home or across different settings. So Classroom Cloud takes all those best bits of the classroom instruction technology and wraps them up. But if you're dealing in the online world, as you know, Philippa, something you talk and share lots of really helpful resources around, keeping children safe online is absolutely the foundation. And so the product is aligned, whether we're in the UK with Kixi or whether we're in the US or any of the international schools, on those core strands about how do we keep children safe online. And I've been of the view that actually there's two different ways you can do it. I mean, let's put the caveat that the most important safeguarding tool in a school is a teacher's eyes and ears and every other member of staff's eyes and ears. However, technology can play a part in helping in that process. So one part is quite a traditional mechanism, which is whenever a child is typing or searching for or accessing content, if it matches against an extensive, many tens of thousand keyword database, it will alert and trigger. There's a potential risk here. Little Al was searching for the word bomb, a very clumsy example, but we need to trigger it. Now, of course, there's nuance then, isn't there? Which is, well, hang on, but the first word was Hiroshima and it was in PowerPoint, not in an online chat room. And so we also want to consider, alongside capturing keyword matching, a contextual risk measurement. And so we have two parts. One part is, well, here's all the keywords that matched, and you can create a nice word cloud, which might be something that lets you use as a discussion piece at a year group or a whole school assembly. But we can also do a thing that says, actually, this child has triggered against this term in the category, whether it's self-harm, eating disorders, bullying, whatever it might be, radicalization. There's a higher risk because this child has searched for similar topics 5 or 6 times in the last 2 or 3 days. And they've always been a higher risk because they were in a chat room rather than on a desktop. And they were on hours where they were out of class rather than in a supervised class, so there's a greater risk. And so the risk index says, look, whilst you've got the triggers, here's how you can focus in on the stuff that really needs human interaction. We all know if there's a trigger against something that relates to self-harm or suicide that we've got an immediacy of acting today. But we've also got trends, whether it be sort of, as we've got here in the UK at the moment, red v blue, this kind of organising off-school fights between schools. You also want to get the intelligence that allows you to say this is now trending with year 7 and we need to intervene. So it provides that. And alongside that, it also provides schools ability for a self-service kiosk. So children can access approved resources. They can get advice, whether it's about drugs or mental health. But of course, the school can choose whether that feature is enabled, and they can also populate their own resources to curate it. And last thing on that, we all have EAL students, children with different primary and secondary languages. So it also has language packs to make sure if we've got learners from different cultures, we can also pick up if they're accessing content that might place them at harm. Final bit, I think, probably the most important bit, and he says with a slight wink, because we know ultimately it's about the kids and the teachers, it's good to keep the techies happy. So isn't it worthwhile giving the techies some tools, just A, so that they'll actually let you install and use the technology that you want as a teacher, and B, because actually a lot of the problem with technology in our schools is just having the confidence that it's going to be available and it's going to work when you need it. So tools that let you see the full IT estate, identify the devices, get a full hardware software inventory. Have we not updated some of these machines? Letting us know when there's been issues, being able to look at an audit trail of use of the devices means that the techies can make sure the kit's ready and available when you need it. And if you're a Philippa or similar and you're looking from a digital perspective of the whole school ecosystem and how can you get more out of your tech, it's a good way of spotting kit that isn't being used very regularly, or building an action plan of the devices most likely to need to be updated first. Maybe spotting that they don't have any free memory slots, so we're not going to be able to upgrade them, we're going to have to replace them. Again, using it from a strategic perspective. If I wrap those three together, there's a real summary of three big things. But I am a big fan. Co-production, evidence-informed EdTech. I've lived and breathed it in the sector for the last 30 years. So the tool is something that you will find has been through all sorts of evaluation and trials with Education Alliance Finland. You'll find that it's got the ISTE seal against pedagogical standards and its alignment. And there's a whole raft of other folks within the education space around the world that we've asked them to evaluate and look at the product to make sure that it isn't just saying this is a tool for you, but it actually stands behind that. And we've got over 20 million users of the technology around the world. So something must be working okay. That's the long and the short of it. I always believe technology stands up if people use it, if it actually has purpose, if it actually adds value, and probably most importantly, if it keeps our children safe so they can access the really important curriculum resources they need to online.
And I think
And he breathes in.
Amazing. I was going to say you did that so well. It's like you must know it inside out. I think what I'm hearing as well is there's something for every stakeholder within a school, but there's also that layer of governance, that layer of safeguarding, which enables the pedagogy to happen. And I think that sounds like the right sort of tool for education.
Over the years, and thank you, that's a lovely summary. I wish I could have done it quite so cleverly myself. However, what I would say to lovely folks is we've iterated our products. Many years ago, the best product was the one that got the most features in it. All for the same price, this one's got twice as many options on the toolbar. We're all a bit smarter now. We want the tool that's platform agnostic, easy to use, easy for staff to build confidence on, that's robust and reliable. So Classroom Cloud isn't just about over 30 years, how many extra things have we added. We've also removed lots of things that are no longer relevant, and we've simplified the process to make sure people have the broadest sense. And of course, it will integrate. So if you're an Office 365 and you're using Teams, it'll monitor your Teams chats and let you know if there's topics going on there that might place a child at risk. The list goes on. Most importantly, if you want to have a play with it, try it for free. Use it in your school. Don't always, we all know we can't just take a demo at a trade show and believe that's the perfect performance in our school. Play with it in your school. If you're still not clear after a month, ask for an extension. Use it for a broader period of time or on a wider number of devices so that you build confidence. Spending money in education, something that we all have to think a few times about and make sure we're getting good value. So I'm all for that. And beyond that, reach out to me and I'll make sure you get a good deal.
That is wonderful, Al. Well, we are going to be hearing next from some educators from all over the world who've had the opportunity to give it a little test drive and see what they think of it. So we will look forward to hearing their outcomes in the next section. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the first of our reviews. This one is going to be all about Classroom Cloud. So I'd like to introduce you to our team of reviewers. I will throw it right over to Krish.
Hi, my name is Krish. I'm the Director of IT and LCS, Dubai, North London Collegiate School, Dubai. And my specialty is overall IT operations and EdTech, and I'm sort of a hybrid. So, hi, everybody.
Incredible. Arifa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arifa. I am a middle school English teacher and digital literacy teacher at OS Riyadh. I'm also an Apple Distinguished Educator, and I've published a few articles based on AI and AI in the classroom, advocating for neurodiverse students. And yeah, I'm happy to be on this podcast with y'all.
Fabulous. Thank you, Arifa.
Hi, I'm Amjad. I've been teaching for 22 years in the UK, UAE, Qatar currently. I'm currently a secondary STEM teacher, leader. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Jerome.
Hey, hello there. I'm Jerome. So I'm a AI and EdTech enthusiast between inverted commas. I've been teaching for quite a large amount of time. I've been head of digital learning and in different schools also. So I'm excited to be talking about Classroom Cloud, which is a nice little app.
Brilliant. Perfect. So the objective of today's podcast, really, as I say, session, is to really look at, does the tool do what it says on the tin? So Classroom Cloud as an application for schools. Tell us a little bit about what it does. What have you seen from the application so far?
So one of the factors that I take a look at when I'm reviewing EdTech is try to distinguish between the tools that change learning and the tools that support conditions for learning. Classroom Cloud for me sat in the area of supporting for learning rather than changing learning itself, though it has tools to help you with the changing the learning aspects. And that's really what it came down. It promoted to us as a classroom management tool, which I think it's very, very strong. And it's got the highest. I run a rubric where I kind of evaluate on different aspects: pedagogy, safeguarding, usability, and implementation. It's scored very highly on safeguarding and classroom management. So in terms of what it say, yes, it does do that.
Absolutely brilliant.
You may have different, I would say, bit of flexibility in some countries. Some countries have different regulations, but regardless, when it comes to children safeguarding, it's the same. So there is nothing called it's lesser or more, like we would do our maximum to ensure the children's safety. So in that context, yes, the application does what it says, and the only challenge would be when it comes to the multiple platforms in the same network. That's where the challenge going to be with certain products, because you'll be trying to cater the whole school, different OSs, different environments, different ecosystems in the same way. Then you here and there, you lose the features. Again, it's given to any product, but it's an amazing product. It's been there for a while. Yeah, I support completely Amjad's point.
Excellent.
I'd like to agree with both Jerome and Chris. One thing that I do appreciate with Classroom Cloud is that from a teacher's perspective, it's a real time saver and time management tool, because obviously the time in class it's not always the best. And with kids, you're able to see exactly what's happening. It does, like they're saying, it does what it says it's meant to be doing. The safeguarding is amazing. And the IT tools for technicians as well. It's super helpful, super fast, and super productive.
Brilliant.
I've used a product in a couple of schools actually, and what made it stick out is the fact that it's really easy to implement and to install in the school. And we used some other tools before that, and the technician was much happier, I would say, by the fact that this was very, very easy to set up. And obviously after that, it's if we turn teachers obviously need to be to know how it works, but I mean it's very straightforward, and that's what also is very, very useful. It's the fact that it's quite a nice and easy app to master. With it's got little bits and bobs to understand, but I mean otherwise it's very, very straightforward, very easy to implement in a classroom style and check what the pupils are doing, if it's the classroom management, but also I was on the safeguarding side of things too. And as Krish mentioned that before, safeguarding is very, very strong, and I really appreciated all the stuff all the stats you can pull out from it. It was very impressive.
Incredible. And I think
one of the biggest challenges of laptop-based classrooms and device-based classrooms is maintaining student focus. Teachers simply can't see every screen at once. Tools like this help provide visibility and allow teachers to guide students on tasks quickly, which is both support the overall flow of the lesson and reduces low-level disruption, allowing teachers to focus more on teaching rather than monitoring behaviour. The reason why I wanted to read that out is because it's one of the fundamental points and strengths of the actual tool in itself. It does give you a large degree of control, which is obviously vital for teachers to then go forward and move forward with the actual learning needs to take place inside the classroom. So just sorry, I need to add that in there because it's a very strong point for the app.
And it's vital. Actually, one of the things that I was going to ask around was a little bit more on the implementation side of things, because teachers are very busy, overwhelmed, lots of things going on, lots of things to do. If the knowledge that actually once they've implemented that they are going to have screen purpose, as opposed to children who are off task, distracted, potentially finding other things to do, that's a real positive. So I think that's such an important part of the understanding of Classroom Cloud itself. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Amjad. And in terms of implementation at the beginning, so to get to that point of those joyful lesson that I can only imagine, where it's just seamlessly being able to use technology without distraction, how easy is that for a teacher to just set up their class, or for somebody to do that for them?
Go first. What I've noticed is that it's really fast with the initial implementation in the classroom. It's about like 3 clicks and you can start your lesson. Whereas opposed to other apps that we've used at our school, you have to first make sure that the previous teacher logged out of the app or that class in specific. And what I've noticed with Classroom Cloud is that as soon as I'm done with my session time, it automatically opens for the next teacher. So there's no need to go back to the previous teacher and ask them to log out and so on. So the setup time is quite fast, and it avoids that of telling the students like, okay, we need to open up to this link or this video or this website, whatever the case may be. I can automatically start my class up and everybody's on the same page and we're all ready to go and ready to start.
Brilliant. Krish, from an IT perspective, what's the setup like from your end?
When I used to use it, it was very straightforward. Like, I think Jerome will understand me better because he's done the same as me, the other side of the deployments. From Google Workspace or from Microsoft, like especially from Google Workspace, if it's a Chromebook environment or an Apple environment, it's much easier. It just configure in the Workspace environment, we push it, and pretty much is zero touch as long as it's managed accounts. So that makes a big difference when you have a huge school. Because once in my career, I used to handle a few schools, couple of thousand kids in every school. It's not a possibility to touch everything in one by one or deploy things in a timely manner. But having such ease of deployment and compatibility with the major platforms, that makes a huge difference.
Excellent. So then you all mentioned within that initial section there, safeguarding. Lots of safeguarding was mentioned in terms of the word, but can we drill down a little bit more into that? Like, how is this a safeguarding tool? What are the specific features from it that are really impressive or supportive to ensuring safeguarding is a high priority within a digital environment?
We can start if that's okay. In this case, I was very impressed because the fact that I've got an anecdote on that also, actually. The news. It's all about, I think they trigger words. So I think it's important, when they do some searches on the internet and things like that, you will have some trigger words. And if you have some words which are, which would be a bit dodgy, they will pick it up and they will record it. So after you can have a look at it. And the funny thing is that the first time that I actually used that, the word sword and weapons came up straight away. And there was a headmaster doing a Latin lesson on the Romans and talking about the different weapons they had. So you're thinking, oh, okay, they probably know what they're doing. So it just popped up straight away. You had something appearing, but obviously in that case, I was really safe. That was okay. There was no issues whatsoever. But I think it's really important. And the fact also that one of the features I really like. And the fact also that they also can have an image taken when they go on certain things if it's got a high level. So you can prove to the parents or show off to the DSL in your school, look, that happened. Well, they obviously have access to it, but it's a piece of evidence also that they access that website. You have the address, but you also have a picture of the content. So that's really important, and that's an excellent feature.
I think it was a recording just to go on from Jerome. I think it was a recording of the actual...
recording, like 4 or 5 seconds or something. But I think yes.
And with AI and all the images in terms of the abuse, it's important to be monitoring and looking out for particularly imaging, go to designated safeguarding lead. That was very important as well, and how the reports can be forwarded the leadership can actually say at a given time and ask for these reports to be submitted in as well, so they can keep a closer eye on everything that's happening. I mean, those features were especially important.
I think that's great, that connection between senior leadership, safeguarding, and the reports from IT, because quite often, depending on how digitalized a school is, there can be a gap. There can be a huge gap between a digital system and the integration of that digital system and the safeguarding procedures, or potentially the reporting mechanisms. So it seems a lot easier. It's a lot quicker, more effective, I would assume, in practice.
Absolutely. I think it seems to be quite fast, but also the fact that technically, I don't know if it's probably the case abroad also, that the pupils, they sign an AUP at the beginning of the year to be using properly, the web, the internet in their schools, and to use the computers properly. So that's also a way to check that they're doing the right job and doing the right things. So I think that's really, really important to have features like this. And I was also very impressed with the fact that it can analyze messages through Teams. Obviously, if you're on Teams also, it can see what and the prompt also you're typing in. So there's lots of things that you can actually pick up. Yeah, that's very powerful, very impressive.
So it causes like an overlay onto other messaging applications within the domain.
Yes.
That's really brilliant. You mentioned statistics. So is there a dashboard?
Yes, there is a progress wheel, I think it was, where the leadership can actually take a look and see what's happening, what's coming up. There was a word, I can't remember what they call it, where the words come up. Word cloud, that's it. It escaped me there, where the most common terms that are being used come up, and they can look at those words and see where they're being used and if they're being used appropriately. In terms of that, there's a lot of information there that can be passed on very, very quickly. And obviously that's very important for leadership to actually lead and manage the school and to find these issues and stamp them out early.
Definitely. The platforms would just send messages or alerts to whoever's in the system. But in this case, depends on the severity or the way we configure it, it will go to the right person. So I lead the digital safeguarding in the school alongside with the other things, but that doesn't mean I'm allowed to see certain things, right? So certain things, like we can configure that it has to go to DSL. Nobody would know. It protects child's privacy. Child might be going through something in life. We don't know what's happening in the houses. So it could be different things, but the good thing is it's flagging to the right person. If you configure it right, it can be a very powerful tool. Also, the regulatory alignments. I mentioned that KCSI before and DFA. Because even though I'm in UAE, we pretty much follow the same guidelines, like keeping children safe in education, and DFA filtering is very clear how to do that. And this falls into right down to the alley and works well for the schools. Again, one more thing I need to bring up, again, being a hybrid from both worlds, even though being with schools for like 16 years, it has started picking up these Gen Z words. And I start seeing the Gen Z words, I did not know what are these words. I mean, certain words are words for us, like it's just an English word, but that's not the meaning. So when it's repeating, happening again, like I realized like it's keep getting flagged. Why it's getting flagged? It's a normal English word. And and I had to actually do some research on those words to understand, because
I was going to say, does it give you a definition of the Gen Z word? I'd need that.
I had to use Gemini to understand what are these words, because unusually certain words were coming up, but they doesn't look like the wrong words for me, but they were. So, and
you can always come home and try them on your children. They generally run for cover and think, what are you talking about?
Seriously. And another beautiful thing is the geolocation management. You can do the restrictions based on the geolocation. When the children are in the school, certain restrictions may apply. When they're at home, something else may apply. So, which is great, because I don't think we should be controlling them too hard after work hours, because sometimes that's the only device they have and parents won't agree with us. So this gives the flexibility how we're going to operate. So overall, it's a great tool.
Nice. On the implementation, it's a good point that I got here. Often the success of the platform depends less on the technology itself and more on how it's implemented across the school. So, I mean, there is that kind of fish to understand how we use it, how we take all that information that's being provided to us and how it impacts the running of the school, how it protects our children, how it makes sure that they're safe and secure in their learning.
And I guess that will be different across different schools as well, right? But there's an awful lot of information there that they can be utilising at different levels for different parts of information, perhaps even influencing pastoral care or maybe academic, thematic elements in the school, depending on what's coming up. But that also, I mean, I guess, do you have to use all of the features? Is it something where you can sort of start to scaffold, build up, maybe choose certain things before as it's implemented? Or is it something where it's implemented and you need to use everything at once?
No, I think you can use them quite differently. I mean, some of these going on in the background and they're just running as you run the actual lesson. So the words it will pick up, things like the websites that you're blocking, websites that you're allowing. That's down, I think, for you for that session to actually control what you can and can't use. And there's also lots of tools in relation to learning. I mentioned that there was tools for it that you can actually implement as well. They come in later, but the safeguarding tools as in themselves, they will kind of run as you're running with the tool itself.
Yeah. Amazing. And so what are some of the tools that people have seen for the classroom that have been interesting that maybe other platforms that you've used before or have seen haven't necessarily had, or this one was particularly good at, aside from safeguarding?
This one, for example, in terms of Edu, you could, if there's a survey or poll, you can start at the beginning of the lesson, for example. So you can check on understanding. It doesn't need to be done at the beginning of the lesson, obviously, but if everybody's on the device, you can run a quick survey, a quick question to check for understanding or something like that, which I think is very useful. I think you can also send an individual message to, which I like also to the pupils in your class. That's super useful because if they're on task doing something and you can see that one of your pupils struggle, some of the people who are not as vocal will put their hand up straight away. You can message them, say, can I help you with anything? They don't need the other people in the class, your pupils in the class don't need to see that you're giving help to that person in particular, but you can just send a little message and say, if I was you, I would do this, we point them in the right direction. There's a kind of educational things that you can use in that context, which I think are very, very useful. These two things are pretty useful. I quite like the random select also, which is good. You have your pupils and sometimes, again, people don't really want to chat or something like that. And you kind of, obviously, you have the wheel of names you could be using. You could pop it onto your whiteboard. But within that, you also have the random select. So if you're asking a question, you can just pop that on and you can have the name or people you're going to be asking a question to or something like that. So that's a kind of a nice little feature you can have in there. And you don't have to be going into another app to be doing it. So it's quite useful.
I was going to say, because I don't know how many times I've made a random name generator, but it always feels a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
I think I'd like to add on to, I agree with the convenience of helping students instead of walking around the classroom and checking individually. Another thing that I saw was the reward system where you're able to, it saves like unnecessary time. You can kind of give kids their points on there and it saves that paper track and paper trail, as well as with Assess the Kids. That's also quite useful instead of having printed out documents and so on. Our school is all about saving the environment and trying to use less paper. So I found that also quite useful. Instead of using two different apps, you can do it all in one.
Amazing.
I mean, I was going to add one thing that was probably, I'm going to flip your question slightly now. One thing that probably could be added is sort of AI interactions. I mean, your question there was that it's different from other apps. I mean, most apps have kind of like a randomizer, a survey tool that I've seen anyway. Anyone can jump in and say, the way I'd like to really see this being developed is in terms of feedback. I know it's got the individual question to the teacher so they can differentiate from there. It's got this whole screens where you've got the screens up and you can see every single student. But what, as a teacher, I think would be very, very good is getting around the classroom. If you're going into every single student to see what they're doing, you're also, and I don't want to mention other apps names on here, but you can actually go in and check their work. So if there's some way that they can actually get some feedback to the students while the teacher's going around the classroom and support their kind of progress, that would be a very, very good feature to have in there, because you're not kind of like going from A and then somebody's up over there and you're running over there and the other way. So I mean, in terms of that, that's one way I would develop the question and say that's something that could be added. Sorry if I've taken your next question.
My next question would be what great, but I think that links so well in terms of what is it delivering for our classrooms, like what else can it share for us? But actually, like you say, if it's not, what's the next step for it? So that's really interesting, in that kind of concept of also teachers' time, isn't it? And that's the big thing of keeping kids on track, keeping them focused and saving time.
Yeah, those feedback loops, kind of measuring against the objectives, students on while the teacher gets and does the human-centered bit of checking in on the students, checking in on the AI and making sure everything's progressing.
Less idle time, more thought.
Yes.
Like it. So throwing that question out to the rest of you, like what are the things that you think would really benefit from Classroom Cloud having as part of its toolkit? What other areas might be able to be developed or you could see potential in?
I'd say they already have few tools, but it's not in the Classroom Cloud, because before it became Classroom Cloud, it was anyway owned by Net Support. Net Support has really cool tools. Used to be like nobody else had them in 2010. But I started using it, the first ones. So they have something called Net Support DNA. So, but this doesn't come with the Classroom Cloud, but if it comes normally, you can add on. That would be that the cohesive environment which you were talking earlier, like everything in one place, because this is going to loop everything together, just stitch them together, and the safeguarding layer remains, and then it gives a deeper control for the technical side as well. Integrations. Also, when you have Net Support DNA built in with the system, it gives up to 10,000 devices to be connected in one console, which is a cluster of schools. Or if it's like a district schools, you could actually run certain aspects of your operations centrally, and it reduces the OPEX for budget because of the human manpower and everything, and it become more efficient, and teachers getting less workload as well, because it's not fair sometimes to load so much on teachers because they need to teach as well. They should not be troubleshooting things for a long time because... So I'd say that part, and definitely Amjad, what you're saying is true when it comes to AI integration as well, because that's lacking. And the biggest problem, which I think they have and had been for a while, is as I said, like cross-platform control. So again, if it's a one-to-one school, no problem, which works we like. But if it's a BYOD within many schools, they would have many forms. But it's something I think everybody should look into and try to.
I know Arifa mentioned work with AI. One of the things that we've looked at closely when it comes to AI is basically students taking accountability of what they're using and being transparent with it, sharing that they're using AI, looking at the idea of using it as a thought partner, not something you copy and paste from. So, I mean, I'd like to see some digital kind of responsibility kind of added into it. The other thing was transparency. I mean, one of the things is to know if the students are actually clear on what's being monitored and how well they understand what's going on, why it's going on, and the importance of it. So, I mean, as I was talking with AI, obviously that will come in with digital responsibility and to get them to be responsible kind of digital citizens.
Yeah. And I think that transparency layer also could potentially be a feed down towards parents as well, of this is what we're monitoring with your children and this is why. So that also could just be a third layer to that.
Yeah.
I think the monitoring is important, but the children or the pupils have got to be understanding why, as you mentioned, that why they're being monitored. That's really, really important. Obviously, if they signed up AUP or whatever, there are no responsibilities. They should know. I think also they should be taught how to be. It obviously is slightly out of the app, but they've got to be taught how to be using AI responsibly too. That's extremely important. And if you're in a digital environment, if you're in a one-to-one device, situation and they use their devices most of the time in classes, I think that's something which got to be really, really important. And the teachers got to know what they're doing, why they're doing on devices all the time. Why are they doing that? Sometimes you don't really need to go on a device. You can use mini whiteboards. You could be doing some activities, running activities without using devices, and make it more effective also than using that. But yeah, you need to, I think there's got to be that fine line where the teachers, the parents, they all know why this app is going to be used, what is going to be pulled out of it. The children, the pupils got to be understanding their responsibility in terms of what they are going to be doing. What we can also see on spying on them. It's not the idea of spying. It's sometimes what we had. I think what I received in school, some pupils say, "Oh, were you spying on us?" I said, "They're doing well. I've got other things other than spying on what you're doing on your computer. I think what's important is that you're doing the job that you're meant to be doing. It's your education after all. That's really, really important. We're just looking that you're on task, not doing the right thing. And if you need help, I can help you by looking at your screen."
Yeah.
I think
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's such a good point. I think that's really, really great. And I also think on top of what you were saying is also helps when just one or two children are using a device and not everybody. Because sometimes there might be a need for like those children to use their device because they might need the accessibility or they might be researching or whatever it was that you've set them because, perhaps they are higher achievers. And actually, sometimes we're reluctant to do that because they might get distracted because they're on whereas actually something like this can even support that sort of learning as well, right?
Yeah, when you put them into groups for collaboration, one of the things we tend to do is break them down into roles. And the idea of having one researcher, especially particularly in science and what I do, where he can be the guy that's in charge of doing that while everybody else can sample or start working on a project to actually doing the critical thinking or the planning for it is it's key. It doesn't have to be a case that everybody is using the actual tool. They can all it feeds into them collaborating then afterwards, because one person can come with this information, another person can say, well, I was going to use this like this.
Yeah.
It brings that part together of the lesson.
Definitely. Absolutely. Arifa, what are your final thoughts?
I think I have to agree that like an AI detector would be really useful, as well as the AI detector is really useful, as well as being able to monitor the kids. Something I've noticed also with more of the neurodiverse students is if you giving them a task, most of the time they tend to want to work alone, but also they do get this easily distracted. So while you're helping other groups, they try to divert off of task, and it's easy to monitor them using the app. And they also kind of have a bit of responsibility where they tell you, I have a kid, for example, who will tell me, okay, I'm going to work for these 10 minutes and I'll give you this, and then I need a 5-minute break, which I can then monitor with him and can see like, okay, you're doing as we planned and as we're doing, and he gets his tasks done. So yeah, that is
amazing. Brilliant. Krish, anything else to add?
From my side, because you guys covered a lot, like in generally, like children are again, if it's their own device or a one-to-one program which is not managed properly, sometimes children would take the devices where the SIM cards are built in and VPNs are built in. So to use firewalls or whatever the system schools have, those are local network based, because this is cloud based regardless what network they're in, regardless being monitored. So it's a massive plus, because children would try not to do anything bad, at least to play some games, like why not? I spend some time on this cool site. So, and being said that, another improvement, it just came to my mind because I'm going through this right now, and with multiple layers of filtering, even children are doing this. So the way they could read the words, I would say, deep inspection of packets to understand what children are searching and all, if it could read the documentation inside the Google Drives or OneDrives as well. Because right now, children are circulating codes of the game as an HTML code. They don't have to be online in order to play the games. So they could simply copy and paste the document, turn off the Wi-Fi. There you go. You have a gaming console. So So this is something I think everybody should be seriously looking at. And the other thing to add would be, I think, because Arif, Amjad, and Jerome, we all work in schools and we hear and see things. The latest development is that the children bring YouTube videos and everything inside the Google Docs. Even though you block YouTube, even from the admin console, matter through the docs it plays. So children tend to bring movie. They like to see in that way. So again,
Wow.
it's an improvement if they could actually start reading the documents, if there's a code behind it and what is it to analyze, like certain platforms does. There are few we are testing them. So that would be a massive plus for any school.
Absolutely. I mean, daily everything is changing, right? But those do sound like some real areas that would benefit a lot of people.
Every day.
And also some absolute top tips for some educators out there who may be thinking that their children are on task and perhaps they aren't because of those different layers. Thank you so much, guys, for your review and the time that you've taken to have a look at Classroom Cloud for us. Overall, yay or nay towards using Classroom Cloud in a school environment? How do we feel about it?
Big plus. Yes. Plus for me, I think I've used it in 2 schools and it was always worked really, really nicely. So a big plus. Yeah, absolutely.
Fabulous.
From my side as well, I'd say it's a big plus. One thing I do really enjoy, and this is a personal positive, is the fact that I don't speak a lot of Arabic. I'm still learning my Arabic and I'm developing it. And living and working in Riyadh, the kids tend to teach me a lot. So having flagged what they said and what the actual meaning of the word is very useful for me. But yeah, I feel like with the few minor adjustments and improvements, it will be a game changer, especially for the fact that it's all in one solution. Everything is found on one platform and instead of multiple apps or websites.
Brilliant. Krish?
I agree with if it could coming with net support DNA as well, it could be a complete solution, which is a big plus. And verdict is yes, it is a very good tool to be used in K-12 education.
Thank you. Amjad, wrap us up.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with definitely on the classroom environment. It's the strongest tool. I still like the AI, the extra bit of feedback for developing learners to be in there. But I mean, that's something for the future that I'm sure they will take a look at. But overall,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
It's a strong app.
Fabulous. That is absolutely brilliant to hear. So I think from my hearing of your review, some incredible positives, some brilliant opportunities for them, but also I would like to see them adding that Gen Z kind of curator of what do all those words actually mean. That would be very helpful for myself. And I'll just start putting it onto my children's devices at home. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully this has been really helpful to lots of educators out there who are looking for that tool that is going to make the difference in their classroom on not only engagement, but by the sounds of it, workload and massively around safeguarding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's episode of the EdTech podcast, where we've been reviewing Classroom Cloud. If you want to find out any information about Classroom Cloud or things that you've heard today, please check out the show notes. Share this episode with somebody who might find it really interesting to understand how Classroom Cloud can help you in your own classroom, your school, maybe even your district. Give us a shout, follow, share and recommend to others. It really helps us. Thank you so much. See you next time.